Hi, I'm Ross.
And I'm James.
And we're going to be talking about Dune 2021, baby. It's finally here.
Worms, baby! Let's go!
This is the second swing at a Dune movie. This one went a little better than the last time, I think. Personally, I never expected that Dune would come back into pop culture in such a huge way, but I think if anyone was going to do it, it was Denis Villeneuve. I think he was the perfect choice for this, and in many ways, the only choice. I love Denis. I love his sci-fi stuff, especially. I think his movies are very, very patient. I'm not a person who believes in magic or destiny, but I feel like the stars really aligned here to make the Dune movie that, frankly, I've been waiting my whole life to see. I can't really suppress my feelings for this movie. I love it so much. From the first time we saw it in IMAX, which was an incredible experience, to just watching it in our living room. Like, every second I spend in that movie, I never want it to end, and every time it ends, I just feel this immense urge to see part two, and I can't wait 2 more years, man. I can't do it.
Here on Caladan, we've ruled by air power and sea power. On Arrakis, we need to cultivate desert power.
So Dune Part 1 follows Paul Atreides of the House Atreides as they travel to the desert planet Arrakis to take over production of spice, the most valuable resource in the galaxy. But Paul soon finds himself caught in a trap by the evil House Harkonnen, who want to maintain their power in the universe.
My Arrakis. My Dune.
Since we're now pretty immersed in Dune and the various adaptations of Dune, I don't really have a problem calling this the best Dune movie. I feel that's not a stretch. It's the kind of good that I feel is hard to describe because it's just me looking at every aspect of the movie and saying, I like that.
You know, cinematography was beautiful.
Yeah.
The story was beautiful. The music was beautiful.
The music was off the chain.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
My main concern going into this was, largely the same concerns I carried based on the 80s movie, which is that, how do you do so much in 2 hours with Dune? Even the first half of Dune is so packed with so much stuff.
The amount of exposition and what is actually needed to be said and how it is said compared to the David Lynch film is quite drastically different. In my personal opinion, it makes a bit more sense the way they explain it to us in this, with Paul reading from his hollow books, or projector books, I think they call them.
Film books
about him learning about the planet, so we're learning about the planet.
It feels like they only ever tell us things we actually need to know.
For the Imperium, spice is used by the navigators of the Spacing Guild to find safe paths between the stars.
What I was most surprised and relieved by is that even in the midst of these huge scale battles and planetary vistas and giant dunes of sand, there were so many moments of real intimacy.
But it's the scale and how big it is, but also how still everything is.
Yeah, a lot of stillness, a lot of quietness, and he really lets the moments that need to breathe. I think it's easy when you're adapting something like Dune that seems so, big and heightened and spends so much time building the world that you feel an obligation to pay attention to those details. But what this movie proves is that you can still include all those details, but maintain the heart of it. It also helps that as a fan of the book, this is much closer to the book's story. The politics are much more important. And since Dune is functionally all about space politics, I was glad to see that brought in, but not in a Phantom Menace-y kind of way where it's just, very dull and nothing happens.
There's no satellites, so Arrakis. Our traders will die in the dark.
It feels 93% accurate to the book with only very subtle changes.
Yeah.
The fact that this is so much like the book boggles my mind, because I don't know any other movie adaptation that does it this well.
You can feel the love for the source material in every scene. I feel like every adaptational choice they made served this movie for the better. I'm sure Denis Villeneuve, as he has talked about multiple times through the whole press tour, really put his heart and soul into this, because they weren't guaranteed a part 2. This movie could have bombed. And it wouldn't have been the first time a movie of this scale bombed hard, but I'm glad people are legitimately connecting with it.
What do they say about this hellhole again?
To shower, you scrub your ass with sand, my lord. That's what they say.
This movie is a very earnest and very honest adaptation of Dune, which is to say, it's very unashamed about what it is. It never feels like they're trying to make the story more palatable. I mean, there are things they change, obviously they can't say jihad that many times in a major American motion picture in 2021, but they maintain the core of that story and the truth of that story and the resonance of those themes. Dune is the kind of franchise or even movie that you have to go into with a full heart and an open mind. You've got to let the nitpicks go, and you've got to embrace what the story is trying to tell you, and very few times per year do movies really get me like that. And I know I really love this one to a degree because I love the book so much, but I think even if I had read the book for the first time this year, I would still love this movie just as much.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love this movie. I literally had no idea what Dune was until that first trailer came out, and I was sitting in theaters, and I was like, what the heck is the Dune?
Yeah.
Like sand?
That's crazy. Wait a minute, sand?
What?
We are House Atreides. There is no call we do not answer. There is no faith that we betray.
It was just so refreshing to see a blockbuster like this take itself seriously from beginning to end. There's only a few moments of levity, but I mean, I know that if someone else had made this, there'd be like stupid winking jokes about everything. And it's clear that the filmmakers want you to be as immersed in this world as possible. And to that end, they treat everything very matter-of-factly. Every time there has to be a block of exposition, there is always a reason why. There is always a character-motivated reason why. For a movie set in the year 10,191, it's still very natural, and the emotions are very easy to slot into.
The only times I could think that there was like somewhat comedic moments was with Duncan Idaho, because that's his character.
Yeah.
And like him and Paul have a fun relationship.
Hey, you. Put on some muscle?
I did?
No.
It is kind of hard to review this movie alone because we do know it's part one and we know what is going to happen in part two, at least in broad strokes, because we've read the book. It kind of feels like we're just talking about the first half of a movie, and we are. But even so, I think this movie functions well enough as its own thing that if there was no part two coming, I would still be pretty satisfied with this as the Dune movie of this era. Greed and power and messiahs and lies and social manipulation, like that's what Dune's about. And that's what this movie's about. And that's what makes it a true Dune movie, not just, it's Dune, but a movie.
That means the Bene Gesserit have been at work here.
Planting superstitions.
This is one of the most impressive mergings of practical and VFX stuff I've ever seen, just full stop. The amount of detail they pack into every little moment is just, it's astonishing, and it even makes things that are very obviously otherworldly and unnatural feel as much part of the environments as the actors do. There's no artifice to this, which is very strange because Dune is detached from our version of reality by quite a few degrees. When the Harkonnens are attacking Arrakeen and just blowing everything to I loved when debris would fly out and like knock people over and you can see their shields vibrate.
Yes.
And stuff like that. The suspensors on the Baron are like that too, where it's just these small visual cues that let you pay attention. I don't think any single possible aspect of this movie was overlooked, and there's no one scene or moment that feels like it received any less or more care than any other moment. It all flows together so well. This is the kind of project that demands that kind of passion and focus, and that's why I was saying Denis was the guy to do it. I don't think I would rely on any director in Hollywood right now more than Denis Villeneuve. Like, he is always a safe bet.
For Dune or for any movie?
For any movie.
An animal caught in a trap will gnaw off its own leg to escape. What will you do?
What do you think about the cast?
Really good choices.
Yeah.
Like Timothée Chalamet, as of now, I can't think of a better actor for Paul.
Timothy's performance is more impressive to me because he allows so much to play on his face without ever really giving anything away. Like, his reactions are so small and so minute, but there is just a few seconds where you can see the full wave of it crashing over him, and then he'll just push it down and repress it.
Sweat and tears.
This did not only assuage my fears about, obviously, the movie being bad, because it was amazing, but I'm also like, yeah, part two will be good too. It's nice to be able to be excited about things again. I've been looking for a franchise to really like sink my talons back into, and I think Dune is the one. This is the kind of movie experience I just crave. Like, I want every movie I see to make me feel like this.
Yeah, I'm hoping that if they do adapt the second book and so on, Denis will be directing, but it might be one of those things where they start bringing on new directors if it does get popular enough.
The truth is, everything about Dune is good, and if you didn't like it, you're a nerd.
Yeah. You.
That's right, I'm pulling the old switcheroo. If you hated Dune, you're the nerd.
You never met Harkonnens before. I have. They're not human, they're brutal.
As much as I love it, I do feel there is a slight amount of anti-bald discrimination happening in this film. Every bald character is a monster and a murderer. Pasty bald men are the most oppressed minority on this planet. I'm just supposed to accept that some full-haired little some NYU twink is gonna be walking around saying that he is the Messiah. Oscar Isaac's character had an amount of hair that was frankly offensive to me. It felt like an affront. I'm just gonna say the Baron seemed like a cool guy. He was just minding his business interests, trying to balance his portfolio.
Kill them all.
Final thoughts on Dune Part 1? Go on.
Good movie. Your turn.
Okay. Yeah, there was no doubt in my mind. Nothing held me back. I totally love this movie. There was a distinct lack of pugs.
There was. Gurney ran into combat without his pug by his side.
His signature
pug.
There were no pugs, but the Harkonnens did have that up little xenomorph dog.
Welcome to my next Halloween costume. Loved the space. I loved the ships. I loved the costumes. Loved the worms. I love Timothy. Will you please message me back?